Hey everybody, it's MsMalcolmHughes here, and I'm back to do another book review. Today I will be reviewing Count It All Joy by Mitchell Allen. He's an independent author, and I was able to receive an advanced review copy of this book via Reedsy Discovery, and I have the link to that below so that you all can go and experience it and read it for yourself. So one thing I want to start out saying about this book is that it was amazing. Like, it was seriously so good in a way that I did not anticipate. I would even say that the summary and premise on the back of the book does not do it justice for what you're going to experience going into it. In the book, we follow a young man. It starts in 1985, so it's a journey. So we literally follow this young man from 1985 to the year 2020, and we get to see how his life progresses via that span of time. When we first meet him, he's a young man who obviously suffers from what I deem a severe case of anxiety. And what was most intriguing initially for me was that I could not figure out, and this never explicitly said, the ethnicity of this person. And I think that's what helps with the universality of the story. A lot of his experiences when he was younger were things that I had experienced growing up, especially like his time with his grandparents and having to go to church, and his experience with Sunday school and kind of questioning what was going on around him and not really being able to fully believe so easily as others did. I found that very intriguing, and it kind of drew me in immediately. The way that the author expertly detailed the emotions that the young man is having throughout, and how everything that he experiences is kind of counter to what others around him seem to be experiencing, and how he's really in his head. One thing that was really sad early on is that it's obvious that he wasn't in a place, and just overall, whether it be school, whether it be home, whether it be church, he really was never in a space where the adults around him fully understood that there was something going on deeper than growing pains or him being somewhat reserved. I think his grandparents knew that there was trauma. At one point in time, his granddad does say, hey, there's some trauma that happened here. Like, how could he not be traumatized? But I think it was deeper than that, and I don't think that was ever fully unpacked. And one thing that we see throughout the book is as the young man progresses, everything becomes worse. He follows the plan that's been laid out for him by others, in this case, his grandparents. He does enjoy gardening in the backyard. He learns that from the next door neighbor. That kind of brings him peace and solace at a younger age. Which throughout this book we see peace and solace is something that is very challenging for him to find and discover. Everything feels chaotic, everything feels abnormal. He feels very ill-placed in every situation, as if he doesn't belong. It takes a lot for him to cope. He had severe trauma as a child and abandonment, and I think this never being addressed, coupled with anxiety, or may have led to the severe case of anxiety. Some may say antisocial disorder, and that follows him throughout all of his life, from school to university. And in university, we kind of see him try to make headway, but again, it backfires, kind of works against him. There's also something here to be said about extreme intellect. Like, there's just so many things. If you wanted to go in and unpack it, you totally could. One thing I can say is as he ages, the book becomes more emotionally challenging to read. His thoughts become darker. His outlook on life becomes significantly darker. It gets to the point where it leads to him like not wanting to go on. And you feel that, like, at some point it's so challenging just to like make it through, only because his outtake on life is so extremely sad. And you're kind of so invested in the story that it's like challenging, just the levels and depths of like sadness and self-deprivation and self-harm that he goes to at certain points. But I think the author does a really good job of bringing you into that and making you feel those emotions, the heft of it all. I think that was like brilliantly done throughout the book. And eventually we get to the great culmination of this book. So the big culminating point is, obviously things are going so wrong. His life is so sad. He's at an all-time low. He's literally lost everything at one point. He was barely holding on to it. He never really wanted it. But it's also a different situation when things anchor you to something. But when everything that holds you on solid ground is gone, and then you only have yourself, it's a completely different situation. And that's what we see here. He eventually comes up with this plan. He sets out on this 1-year plan to commit suicide. I won't say whether or not that happens, but I will say that the title Count It All Joy is extremely significant. So the title Count It All Joy is actually a Bible scripture. My interpretation of it is that everything in your life, and I think this is reflected in other religions, just in life, different mantras, that if you believe that there is a higher source, higher energy, higher being, higher constructor at play, then everything in your life, good or bad, is getting you closer to where you're supposed to be. At the end, you look back and you can count it all joy because it aided in getting you to your actual destination. In this case, I appreciated that religion did come up, but very subtly. It wasn't overt, it wasn't in your face. In fact, our author struggles with the concept of there being a God or religion, and in the ways that he can conceptualize it, none of them are like positive. One thing I really appreciated about the end of the book and how it all came together is that I didn't really see it coming. When you're reading a book, it's a great book, you become really invested in the characters and you want to see positive things happen for them. But with this book, I would say that I didn't see the way that it transpired happening, and that was a pleasant surprise. It was such a pleasant surprise that when I reached the end of the book and I put it down, all I could say was wow. What I appreciate most about this book is that it's well written. The story pulls you in. It doesn't really let you go. And even when you're uncomfortable, you want to know what will happen. You want to see where this person's story will go. And what I really appreciated is that we were on this journey with this person. From the beginning, we were there on this journey. And like, we know that starting out, the protagonist couldn't have seen the trajectory that his life would make, and neither could we. What was also interesting about this book is that it's broken up incrementally over 5 years. Like I said, we go from 1985 to 2020, and we don't know the full story of what's happening in between. We get dropped in, but it's done in such a way that you don't really wonder, like you're not reaching for or desiring more information. The information and background that's provided is sufficient, just enough that you know what has happened and you still feel fully invested in the character's story. If I had any negatives to say about this book, it's not necessarily for the book itself, the writing of the book, the text, and the content there. It's just that, again, this is an independent author. I kind of wish that they would have had another pair of eyes, and I'm pretty sure they had editors along the way, but just another person toward the end to read it one more time, because especially in the latter portion, there were just like grammatical things and typos that as a reader sometimes like pulls me out of the story a bit, but that's the only thing, and that's saying a lot because I read a lot of books, so I'm always really grateful when a story is just superb and I get to experience it, and it's always just the best. So yeah, in this case, I would definitely say the book was well written, and it's just something that I thoroughly enjoyed reading, and I would recommend that anyone pick it up and read it. Like I said, it is pretty heavy, so I would like just monitor what space you're in when you're picking up the book and deciding to read it. I hope you all enjoy it as much as I did. Definitely a great read. And also it was a quick read. It was a quick read, even with all the heft and having to wade through various emotions. It was a quick read, so that was also nice. Yeah, it's a book that sticks with you, and it causes you to reflect on your own journey and in your own life, and that is a high compliment. So well done. I think everyone should read it. That's it for me on Count It All Joy. More book reviews will be coming. Can't wait to hear what you all think about the book. And until next time, as always, remember to give time and to have the best day of your life on purpose. All right, until next time, everyone. Peace.